Hi, everyone, and welcome to the monthly Fabric Frenzy, where we'll go through the news, spotlight, and a bunch of other fun activities. So we're going to do this Fabric Frenzy monthly. We are starting today. We'll have a bit of a summer break next month, but we're restarting up the concept in August, and then every month we'll be back with any news about Fabric, any news about Power BI, and also a bunch of other fun activities for you to participate in. So for today, we have an action-packed agenda with the quote of the day, but also, more importantly, Microsoft Fabric and Power BI news. We have a spotlight today, which will be how to organize OneLake in the future going forward. And finally, a chance for you to win home a data model t-shirt. So for the data model t-shirt competition, we are going to host this on a quick Kahoot just to be able to get your information, and we'll do a little quick quiz, not competing over points or anything, but just a little fun quiz. And everyone who participates there will be in the draw of the t-shirt. So if you want to prepare and be able to participate in this little fun competition, what you can do now is you can go to Kahoot by either downloading the Kahoot mobile app on your iPhone or on your Android. Just go to the App Store, find it there. Or if you're on a browser or on a computer or any other device, you can go to kahoot.it and you will be set up there. And after you've done that, you just need to wait to get the game pin that I will provide you with later at the end of the session. So for the quote of today, I watched an interesting video here from SQL Server to Fabric by Patrick and by Bob Ward, where one of the main takeaways here was that Bob Ward was able to create a report by loading in the data from SQL, but also using some CTES on a data lake and combining the two in Power BI, make dynamic reports. And Patrick asked him the question, which is the quote of the day. So to get to this point of creating the report, how much code did you have to write? And Bob, of course, said 0, which is truly a signal of the power of Microsoft Fabric. It's also been reflected on the recent Forrester Wave that was released in the current month, where Microsoft is now not just positioned as a strong strategy leader on augmented business intelligence platforms, but they're actually almost off the chart. It's not possible for them to be any more to the right of this graph. They are absolutely the strongest, and they are as strong as one can be. And if you ask me, this is of course to a large extent because of the recent release of Fabric, but also all the capabilities that they've built up within Power BI and within Azure Synapse over the last few years, which is culminating into what we now know as Microsoft Fabric. So for anyone out there who are watching this Microsoft Fabric frenzy and don't know what exactly it is still, I'm just going to do a really quick recap. So Microsoft Fabric is a unified platform that brings in all the tools we know and love from Azure Synapse, from Power BI, and from Data Factory, and adding a few more on the way. So what we're getting is that we get the full toolbox of everything we had in Synapse. We get the tools from Data Factory. We have everything we have from Power BI, and then we get a new tool called Data Activator sometimes sooner. And this is all packaged into the platform we already know from Power BI, now just extended with all these new toolboxes and all these new capabilities. So very exciting future we have ahead of us with Microsoft Fabric. So what's new in June for Power BI and Fabric? Well, first of all, Fabric itself is still new, but we already covered the basics, and there are loads of other things to talk about, which is also why we're going to do monthly spotlights on individual features and how we best work with them and work around them. So today, most of the news will be about what is new for Power BI, because there are a bunch of really great, really exciting news for Power BI that may have been overlooked by the attention that Microsoft Fabric has been getting. So the first one I want to bring up is Power BI Developer Mode. It's a really cool way to save your work as a new file format, which is a new simple, very intuitive folder structure that makes it easier to do something like code versioning, CI/CD, and stuff like that. Furthermore, we have pricing, which was revealed for Fabric, so we actually know what it's going to cost now, to some extent. We have new capabilities for embedding Power BI. It's now easier to work with our Power BI outside of the Power BI platform. And we have a new card visual that really ups the game of what we can do for making aesthetically pleasing, but also very performant, very quick visualizations in our reports. It's a very, very handy new tool for anyone who loves to do neat-looking, cool reports. And finally, we have new admin monitoring capabilities that are available to tenant admins in Power BI for a quicker way to get insights that can help you manage, administer, and govern your tenant. And this is all coming out of the box, so you just need to go there and click, and it'll be ready for you. So let's start with the Fabric capacity and pricing. We've already had the story of Fabric is coming with new capacities, so where we used to start with what is an F64 was the lowest we had before. It was the equivalent of a Premium 1 capacity for Power BI. We now have lower tiers of capacities going all the way down to an F2, which means we'll be able to start cheaper, but also with less capacity. So if we are only aiming for the minimum amount of compute power, we could go for an F2, which is currently priced around $263 per month as a pay-as-you-go service. So that means $263 per month to get started, and you even have to have the capability to turn off the service if you don't need it, sometimes during the day or over the weekend, and turn it on when you need. So basically, it is pay as you go, so you pay by the hour. Microsoft are already communicating that when we look forward into other billing plans where you can have like yearly or even more reservations, the pricings may be able to be offered even lower than this. But just imagine it, around $250 to get all the capabilities of Fabric, but also all the capabilities of Power BI Premium, at least almost. Because there's one single feature that is not included in anything below the F64, and that is the free Power BI viewer licenses. So beforehand, and currently, if we have an F64, all our reports and everything we create can be consumed and can be viewed by anyone in our organization without having to buy them a Power BI Pro license. We only have to buy them for developers. But if we're using lower than F64, we have to buy Power BI Pro license to any users who needs to use the Power BI Pro features within that capacity. So similar to what we're used to, we can get free licenses with a Power BI Premium 1 or above, and below we have to pay for the Pro licenses, but we also get cheaper capacity. So overall, it's a pretty good hybrid approach. Then we have a new card visual for Power BI. So beforehand, if we wanted to make something like in the lower left corner here on this report with like a card with a value and a title and some icon and a bar to the left, we suddenly ended up creating 10 or 20 of unique objects. And all of these took up some performance, and they made the report slow, and they made it not the nicest developer experience either. So with the new card visuals, we can actually do a lot of what we had to make a lot of hacks to do. We can have multiple cards within one visual. We can set up bespoke designs with icons and sidebars and all these things, and it's all just configuration with this visual. And it will allow us to create a very flexible, very different set of visualizations that is blazingly fast and performant. And some of the common stuff, like the example here in the top, with headcount, turnover rate, and cost per hire, well, that can now be one single visualization instead of being a bunch of different objects. So really a superpower for anyone who wants to do neat and great looking reports that are also blazingly fast. I'm very excited about that feature. Then we have admin monitoring, which is a much needed feature. I mean, we can do a lot with the REST API. We can get almost all of the data that we need to be able to admin and to govern and to monitor our Power BI tenant. But it always has been a little bit cumbersome and something that took quite a bit of work. With the new admin monitoring, we just get a set of data sets and report out of the box. And to begin with, we get something called a feature usage report and an adoption report. And they both have its own data set and its own report. And they will help us to figure out who's doing what in our organization. It will help us to see how usage and adoption is going. Is it going up? Is it going down? Are we paying for licenses that are not used and stuff like that? And it can help with audits and make sure that everything in your tenant is compliant. So if you didn't already check this out, check if you can access it in your tenant. There are still some people who are not able to access this feature, myself included. I could open the report, but the report had no data. So it's still a preview thing. But looking at some of the examples of people who are using this today, it really will, once it becomes stable and works for everyone, it will be a really, really neat addition for any admin of Power BI. Furthermore, we also actually got a similar monitoring tool for Fabric as a whole, which is more of a consumption monitoring. But we will cover that in a later session, another time. Then we also have embedding. Embedding in Power BI is sometimes a bit of an underutilized tool, because what we can really do with embedding is take anything we create within Power BI and make it available for users of other applications. So we could put it in web portals, we could put it in web applications, we could even use it in notebooks or something like that. But it needs us to know how to get started. And the new big thing is that we got a demo workspace in Power BI to help try out the different settings for embedding, and it will help us generate the code that we need so we don't have to do so much of ourselves by hand. And another feature we got is the ability now to visualize Power BI reports directly in Jupyter Notebooks, which means if we're sitting as a data scientist or a data analyst and analyzing some data in our notebooks, and we want to do a quick visualization or a quick report to kind of get an overview of our data, we can now do it with a few lines of script inside our notebooks directly in Jupyter Notebooks. So I think that's a very cool addition. Then we have the new developer mode for Power BI. And this is probably the biggest thing for this month if we look at Power BI features, because it seems like a small thing. We are now able to save our Power BI files as a new format. It sounds very technical. It sounds maybe even boring for something who don't know why this is cool. And this is very cool because being able to save our files in this new format allows us to actually understand everything about our data set and our report inside the file format. So we have all the data as metadata in the file instead of being a compressed binary format. And that means we can check it by just looking at it. We can have third-party applications check it through, look at it, make sure we follow best practice and stuff like that. We can check it into a CI/CD setup where we could have code versioning, we can have approvals, we could have change control, we can have all these enterprise level capabilities that will help us make more robust artifacts going forward. And all of this can be enabled by a file format that now has I think this is what people refer to when they say desktop hardened, that now has all the data and the metadata inside the file format. So actually, I installed this on my own personal Power BI, and I'll show you an example here. Great. So opening up Power BI. So using this feature works as any other preview features that you may have used already. And if you don't know how that works, well, there's an option inside Power BI to enable preview features. So I'll quickly go through that. Go to File. Don't fill in this one. Go to File, Options, then Options again. And there is a tab called Preview Features. And here you can go and enable the Power BI Project Save option down here. Just click this one and activate it, and you will now get this new capability for your desktop as well. Then if you have a file, like I'm opening this PBIX because I can also convert a current .pbix file to the new format. I just opened here a random report with a very, very small data set of only one table. Then I'll be able to use Save As, and now instead of the old way of saving, I can change here the type to be a Power BI project files. Now, this is actually a folder format. So if you just save it in your main folder, like download, you'll get a bunch of different folders. So it's actually important to put this inside a folder. So we'll just call this Fabric Demo. Yeah, we'll just call it Fabric Demo. And we'll get the file name here, Business Central BC2ADLS, which was the original report name. I save it, and that's it. I can now use the new file format. I can open the report. I can edit the report. Nothing really changed from nothing really changed from a developer point of view. I still have my report file. I can open it, and the moment I open it, I'm back to using and developing on my dataset and on my report. And while it opens, we can maybe explore what's underneath. So you'll see here. So it opens, and I can edit just as I did before. Nothing changed for the experience of me doing my work. But what really changes if we dig into some of these folders, because as you can see, there's a folder for all what's in the data set. And that means all the information about the model, all the information here about everything going on in the model. There's a bunch of metadata to dig into. And even something like, how is the diagram of our data model set up? So when we actually have these diagram views of our different tables and how they're connected, it's actually also defined in here, which allows us to check it out, but it also allows us to change it. So we could change some values and it would be reflected inside our Power BI. Same goes for the report. We can actually go and check what is going on with the report, and some of it seems cumbersome and some of it is even understandable. So something like here, I can see, well, this is the main report, and here is I have my page 1, and there's some metadata, and there's, for example, a height value here of the report. So yeah, if I went crazy and say, well, I want to make this report double as tall, just for the sake of it, I could even edit the value here inside the file, and this change should be the preview, so I say should now be reflected inside our report. We can open it for one last time and check out if it really is so. And there you go. You can see now the report has a different height, and that was basically by changing the value inside the JSON files. So gives us more flexibility, makes it easier for us to do version control and things like that going forward. And it really strengthens it really enhances the capabilities of what third-party tool providers will be able to let us do with our data sets and our reports as objects. Yeah, cool. So that was the news for this month, at least the biggest news. It's been an eventful month. We got everything in Fabric. We got also a bunch of other things for Power BI, but these were, in my view, the most significant and exciting news to talk about. And then we have a spotlight for today on how to organize our OneLakes. So OneLake is actually at the core either a data lake or a collection of data lakes. But it has containers and folder structures as we would be used to. It's just not called like that. All we can see is one big OneLake with a bunch of folders. So we have to make some assumptions of what is going on behind the scenes, and we don't really know because that's all up to Microsoft what they're doing. But I want to say that we have multiple levels of hierarchies of objects in our OneLake. So we have the OneLake as a whole thing that actually spans across tenants. So tenants is not a top level, root level object in our OneLake. OneLake actually spans across multiple tenants. Within those tenants, we can have a new thing called domains, which is a logical group of several workspaces. So you could have something like a finance domain if you wanted to do business area groups. You could have a Germany domain if you're doing geographical grouping, or you could even have something like product X if you're doing data product divisions of your domains. All something you need to think about as a company because you can't really mix and match. It is one of the other, and you need to decide which kind of domain structure you need in your organization. Below the domain, we have workspaces that we're already familiar with from Power BI. We can have a bunch of workspaces that can reside in a common domain, and all of the workspaces will actually become a folder in the OneLake. So from a OneLake point of view, you have whole OneLake, and then you have all the workspaces listed as the top level folder in the OneLake, which you can then go into. And inside the workspace, you can then create artifacts. You can create lake houses. You can create warehouses, and in those lake houses and warehouses, you can store folders and files as well. So you have all these options to create hierarchies of structure. So at the gist of it, you have here the OneLake on the top, workspace as the second level of folders. Then you have domains that are logically boxing in the workspaces, but they're not currently being represented in your actual lake. Then you have the artifacts in those workspaces, which is also folder levels or folders in the OneLake. And then in those, you will automatically get 2 folders, actually 3, a config folder, but also then a folder for your Delta tables and a folder for your custom files. And the Delta tables will not be able to fit into subfolders. So if you try to do this, you cannot do this with the UI, but you could do it with Notebook or with programming. If you try to save a Delta file in the tables folder in some subfolders, it will kind of break and not be able to identify itself as a table object. So tables are one level without any subfolders, but our files we can arrange with hundreds of a bunch of subfolders, just like we're used to with a regular data lake. So we can create any structure we would like inside the files. But if you want to utilize the new Delta Parquet format inside the tables, inside our lakehouse of warehouse, we need to keep it as a single hierarchy. Which means if we want to structure something like our lakehouse into a raw layer, a standardized layer, and a curated layer, well, then we need to have separate lakehouses for those objects if they need to be separated in separate folders, because the Delta tables within cannot have subfolders. We cannot have a raw folder and a standardized folder and a curated folder unless we create a lakehouse to host those folders. So I'll quickly show you an example of this. Here is a Power BI tenant. See it called Fabric Demo, and inside of this I created 3 lakehouses. So if you go to something like the raw lakehouse, you will be able to see that it has the table folder, and it has the files folder. So instead of so that's like the root level of the folders. But we can also actually dig into the content by using the File Explorer that we can install locally. So I have a File Explorer here for checking out all of my OneLake. And as you see, I have my different workspaces here as the first root level folders. Then I can go into this, and you'll see the different objects here for the raw lakehouse, for the standardized lakehouse, and for the curated lakehouse. So I loaded in some data into the raw lakehouse, and you can see this data is going to tables. I loaded them as Delta tables, and they will actually be represented as folders themselves. So we have a customer with the OK files and the Delta log and everything inside. But that also means that that everything we do in Fabric is actually represented as some sort of folder structure in our OneLake. And understanding how those are connected can really help by making sure you get the right structure going forward. Cool. That was the spotlight for this time. And we'll jump on to the competition about the data model t-shirt. So to win this t-shirt, you need to, I already said this, you need to open your Kahoot. You had some time now to download the app if you wanted to. And if you didn't, it actually doesn't take a lot of time. You can still do it. And you can go to Kahoot IT. And if you're ready to enter the game pin, you will be able to participate in the competition. Now, it's a 1-question quiz, and even just by entering the competition, even if you don't answer anything, you will still be part of the draw for the prize. So this is the game pin. The game pin is 880-0048. And you will be able to see it in just a second. There you go. So you need to go to your Kahoot and enter this game pin, 880.0048. I've been told that we have a bit of the delay on the stream, so I'm surprised. I'm excited to see how long it will take for the first people to arrive. And there is the first 2 people. I wonder if it's going to be just you 2 competing here. Will be interesting to see if there's going to be more. But if not, well, then it just increases your chances of winning. So already a good chance, 50-50 here. I'm gonna give people 30 more seconds to sign up, and then we're going to start the quiz. So, okay. People are entering. So welcome to Dennis, to Tils, to Starup, and to Carlson. And to Kinka. Oh, actually, maybe I underestimated this delay. So I should find something to talk about for the next half minute as well. We can wrap up the one leg bit a bit. So we actually have now we have the workspaces we can use now to create this structure, and we can put artifacts inside these workspaces. But if you come from a data lake background, you may actually miss out on a lot of the flexibility in making your whole own big scheme of tables. If you were in a data lake, you can create subfolders of which source does the data come from, which type of load are we doing? Are we doing delta loads? Are we doing full loads? We can even have versioning on our different loads inside that structure. And we can fine tune the performance and everything. And this is something where Microsoft is doing this for us in Fabric, so we don't have the same flexibility, but things are more simple and easy. So we just need to be aware and comfortable with the new set of design restrictions we are in when we design how we want our one lake to be. Similar to how we designed how we wanted our data lake to look like before. Well, we have 8 participants, so I am very interested to start the Kahoot at Work quiz. So for the Fabric Frenzy June 23, this will be the shortest quiz ever done, because there's 1 question and 1 follow-up question. So the first question here is a multi-select with no points given. So it is just for your sake of seeing how much you got some of these concepts. So in the one lake, there are a bunch of objects in Fabric, and there is a bunch of things that creates folders in the one lake. So the question says here, you can select multiple of these will create folders in the one lake. Will the tenant create a folder? Will the domains create a folder? Will the workspaces create a folder? Will the artifacts, the Parquet files, or the Delta files? That is the question. There was a bunch of different answers, but the reality is that workspaces, artifacts, and Delta files create folders for us. So the tenant does not actually. For most organizations, you will have one lake as the big top tier folder in your single tenant. So if you're on a single tenant, it will feel like the tenant is the top level folder. But actually, if you had multiple tenants, you would see all of them as one big one lake. So the tenant itself is actually not a folder. Domains is not a folder at all. Parquet files, also they're just files. But since Delta files is a collection of Parquet files with a JSON on top, it's actually a folder and not a file, the Delta files. So good to see a bunch of people actually got this thing. So my question to you is, what are you most excited to try out in Fabric from what you already know and what you may have seen? So while you answer this question, I'm going to here do a randomized pick of all the contestants in the quiz. And after this chance for you to give some feedback, we will know who the winner will be. And I actually know it now, so I just need to stand here in silence, waiting in anticipation. And whoever the winner will be, because it will be on the second of when the session is also over, who the winner will be, I will announce in the last seconds, say goodbye, and then I will reach out to whoever I announce, and just, I have your email through the Kahoot, so I will write you and make sure that you get your prize accordingly. So, bunch of answers. Let's look at them. What are people excited to check out? Developer mode. Developer mode is also a really, really neat feature. Great, so thank you for participating. I draw the winner, and the winner is Dennis. So congratulations, Dennis, you are winning a data model t-shirt. And for the rest of you, thank you for participating. We'll be back in August with a new chance to win a t-shirt or maybe something else. So thank you for joining. Hope you have a nice day, and probably also hope you have a nice summer holiday, and see you in August. Thank you.